Sydney West was a 19-year-old freshman at the University of California, Berkeley. Sydney spent her childhood and much of her teenage years in Pleasanton, California. She would later move to Chapel Hill, North Carolina with her family. Sydney left playing volleyball and was selected for her high school's varsity team. She was close to her family and was described as, quote, fun, goofy, and passionate. After graduating high school, Sydney took a gap year after her gap year. Sydney returned to California to attend UC Berkeley and stayed with some friends in the Bay Area. She was going to take a full load of classes, but had to postpone as she was suffering from a concussion from earlier that summer, and the virtual classes were already proving too challenging. On the evening of September 29th, 2020, Sydney had a lengthy phone call with her father. Her father expected to hear from her the next day, but she never called him. He became worried when he tried calling her phone several times, but all of the calls went unanswered. She was officially reported missing to police the next day. Very few details are provided regarding her disappearance. Sydney is believed to have last been seen on September 30th, 2020, at around 6:45 a.m. She'd taken a ride-share service such as Lyft or Uber to the area of Crissy Field, near the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. Police immediately launched a search for her, while her family and friends distributed flyers throughout the city. Security footage from the area on and around the Golden Gate Bridge was checked. However, due to heavy fog that morning, it was difficult to find her image within the footage. The police received dozens of tips following Sydney's disappearance. However, none of them panned out. Sydney has not used her phone, bank, credit card, or social media accounts ever since she disappeared. She is described as Caucasian, 5 foot 10 inches tall, weighing about 130 to 135 pounds. She has blue eyes and light brown hair. The morning she went missing, she was wearing black leggings, a teal hoodie, and an old pair of slip-on dark green and black Vans. She may have been carrying a black backpack with her and may also have been wearing glasses. Sydney is considered to be at risk as she was suffering from anxiety and depression at the time. The area where she is believed to have disappeared, between Crissy Field and the Golden Gate Bridge, is known to be busy with walkers, cyclists, joggers, and vehicle traffic. Sydney's family hopes that someone may have seen something that morning and can come forward. There's a $25,000 reward for anyone who could provide any information that may help find Sydney. Well, the Golden Gate Bridge has previously been a prime location for suicides. Safeguards installed within the last decade have drastically cut down this location as a suicide destination. Well, she is considered at risk. The family does not believe she committed suicide, and they continue to hope and pray for anyone to come forward with answers. Anyone who wishes to learn more about her disappearance can visit the newly set up website at findsydneywest.com. Aprile Mcintosh was a 35-year-old mother of 4 who lived with her husband, Michael Mcintosh, in Crystal Cove, Lutz, Florida. The couple were both employed as nurses. Aprile was employed at the University Community Hospital, and Michael worked at the James A. Haley Via Medical Center in Tampa, Florida. Aprile was described as a devoted mother and an excellent healthcare provider. On November 8, 2002, Michael called 911 after finding Aprile's body on the floor of their bedroom. An autopsy revealed that Aprile had died of blunt force trauma to the upper torso. Suspicions immediately fell on Michael, as he was not supposed to be at the home at that time. A month earlier, Aprile had filed a domestic violence case against Michael. Aprile alleged that Michael was abusive to her and her children. She stated in court documents that the couple had gotten into an argument and that Michael had spit in Aprile's face and threw a book at her, hitting her in the chest. April then ran to the bedroom and called for help. After the argument, Michael was charged with 2 counts of battery. Against his wife, a court ordered Michael to stay 300 feet away from April and her children at all times. At the time of her death, Michael was staying in a mobile home 5 miles away. April had 2 children with Michael, while the other 2 children were from her previous marriage. At the time of her death, after police filed 2 counts of domestic abuse charges against Michael, April had custody of all her children, while Michael only had visitation rights to his biological 2 in the court documents. April states that in regards to the abuse at the hands of her estranged husband, he would, quote, verbally put down children and threaten them. When punishing correcting children, he would spank and push incorrectly by hitting upside head many times, kicking in back, etc. The judge goes on to know, quote, the children are scared when father gets angry with them. Michael told police that on the night April was killed, he was sleeping in his mobile home when he heard April's voice. In his sleep, he said that the voice told him that the kids were in danger. He told investigators that a spirit was using his wife's voice to contact him. He called his home and spoke to his 9-year-old son, Matthew. He told him to wake 15-year-old Philip up and check on the others. The boys checked and informed him that all 4 brothers were unharmed. The boys then tried checking on their mother, but her bedroom door was locked and the bathroom door, which LED from the swimming pool, seemed to have been broken into. Michael said that he immediately left where he had been staying and drove to the family home. He called 911 on his way. Michael said that after arriving at the home, he found that another door leading from the bedroom to the swimming pool had been supposedly tampered with and was left open. He said that after he entered his bedroom, he found April lying on the floor next to her bed. Michael said that he checked for his wife's pulse, but could not find one, and so he did CPR on her for 5 minutes. Michael was questioned, but denied any involvement in April's murder. It's worth noting that Michael tried to collect April's $525,000 life insurance policy merely 3 days after her death. After realizing the claim, it was actually a potential suspect in the insured staff, the policyholder sent the matter to probate court, and no word has been released on the status of the case or the money. While no updates have been provided, Michael was ordered to jail in 2005 for the months of July and August on charges that he tried to physically trip April's mother and current guardian of their children, while both parties were present for parental rights hearing. In April of 2005, Michael has been investigated as a potential killer, but he's not considered an official suspect in April's murder, and the case remains open and unsolved. Esther Dingley was an experienced hiker and climber. She lived in Durham, England with her boyfriend Dan Colgate. In 2014, Esther and Dan decided to tour all over Europe in their camper van after Dan had to undergo surgery for a life-threatening disease. They were going to get married in 2014, but decided to cancel due to Dan's illness. For the next few years, Esther and Dan would travel through Europe in their camper and would write about their experiences on their blog. In 2020, the couple was staying in the Aprile Mountains, located on the border of Spain and France, when the lockdowns happened. The pair stayed in the village of La Hoque-sur-Loos, and when the restrictions were lifted, they headed back to England. However, they would return to international traveling shortly after, and spent the next few months traveling through Italy, Austria, Switzerland, and Liechtenstein. In October of 2020, the couple would head back to France and stayed at a farmhouse in the remote village of El Hol in Gascony, France, to abide by the French lockdown laws. But at the end of October of 2020, Esther decided to go on a solo trip to the Pyrenees Mountains. For a month, Esther crossed the Spain-France border and reached the village of Benausk on November 15, 2020. She parked her camper van in the village. She had planned to hike from the town to peak to Sauve Gould, a mountaintop in Pilhane. On November 17th, she would climb 7,000 feet in order to reach Unsolved, Ohio's refuge. She spent the night at the refuge. And on November 19th, Esther posted on Facebook that she had to abort her climb due to heavy snowfall after posting to Facebook that her hike had been called off. Due to heavy snowfall, Esther was reportedly given a ride by an unnamed hiker who had also walked her down the mountain path. This unnamed hiker had supposedly dropped her off at her camper van. On November 22nd, she sent a picture, the top of Bouc des Avials, to Dan via WhatsApp, and told him that she planned on walking the 8 miles between Port de la Gale and Port de Vanesque and then headed back down the mountain to spend the night at the Refugee Vanesque in France. This would be the last time that Dan would hear from her. On November 25th, the couple had planned to meet in Gascony, France, but when Esther did not show up, and after not hearing from her for over 3 days, Dan reported her missing to authorities. A massive search was carried out by both French and Spanish authorities. Esther's car would be found abandoned by Spanish rescuers. In Banausque, the authorities utilized helicopters, sent dogs and drones to search for her, but no chase could be found. In December of 2020, the search was called off due to heavy snowfall. The paths that Esther was taking were marked, well indicated on maps, and well frequented by hikers. Later, an Olympic skier named Marty Vigo Delarco came forward and told authorities that on November 22nd at around 3 p.m., Marty and his girlfriend had met with Esther while hiking in the Pyrenees. Esther was hiking up the mountain while the Olympic skier and his girlfriend were hiking down. He said that Esther was carrying a very large backpack and had asked the pair for a piece of fruit or something fresh, but they didn't have any. The couple did not see anyone else heading up the mountain, and they are believed to be the last people to have ever seen Esther. An hour later, Esther reached the summit and would send the picture to Dan on WhatsApp. Authorities are trying to find the unnamed hiker. They gave Esther a lift to her caravan in hopes of finding any leads, but so far he has not been identified. Dan has been questioned and ruled out as a suspect. There have been a number of theories, from abduction to voluntary disappearance, but none have been substantiated. In April of 2021, Dan resumed a search for Esther, this time alone. Esther remains missing to this day.